Whenever you're ready.
I'll now call to order the meeting February 19th, 2025, Sugarland 4B Corporation. Any public comments?
No one signed up.
Okay, we'll close the public comment section. We'll now move on to item 3, consideration and action on the minutes of January 15th, 2025. We do have a correction to that. Alan Goodrich excluded himself and did not vote on the approvals of the various fund grants for the parks improvements. Any other comments on the minutes? A motion to amendment. Second. Okay, minutes are approved with the amendment. And now we'll go to the workshop. Vote for the approval. Thanks. Thank you. So we'll go on to the workshop. This will be a review and discussion of the Sugarland 2025 the 27th Strategic Plan by Shayla Lee, Director of Strategic and Government Affairs. And let me just ask a quick question. Is this an open discussion during this presentation, or do you want us to wait till the end?
Let's wait till the end for questions, and then if we need to flip back through a slide, we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to go through with you guys our 2025-2027 strategic plan that was approved by council on February 4th. And you do have a copy of the strategic plan in front of you as well. So just a little background information we like to share with everyone, just so we're kind of on the same page of how we got to this point. So back in last April, the city did an RFQ process in order to get strategic planning consultants to help us with the process. And we received 13 bids, of which we picked a company called Future IQ that helped us throughout the strategic planning process. And so from that process took from July 2024 through December, where we were able to interact with 1,500 participants, and I'll get into the different ways in which we engage with them as well. But the key focus of our whole process was making sure that it was future-oriented, data-driven, and people-focused. So the various efforts that we did to engage the community and stakeholders throughout this planning process were, there was a stakeholder survey that got over 1,000 responses. There was a small business networking event that was hosted with economic development at Talyard. The farmers market, we had pop-up tables there. We had different focus group discussions with Fort Bend ISD students and local students from U of H Sugarland, as well as stakeholder update meetings where we invited community members and staff members as well. And then also, so just for you guys' knowledge, think tank workshops are an opportunity where the community and staff came together to talk about different trends of the world and how they would impact Sugarland. So those are kind of a handful of the various methods that we engage the community. So the plan has 4 major elements. We'll spend the bulk of our time talking about the 4th one, but I did just kind of want to call attention to let you guys know all the various components. So the major area being stakeholder engagement data. Because we were very focused on being people-driven, data-driven, we wanted to make sure the different comments that we got directly tie back to the different objectives and projects that we'll develop as a result of the strategic plan. So you'll see a lot of quotes. You'll even see pictures in there from Fort Bend ISD students of them drawing what a future looks like in Sugarland. And so we just wanted this opportunity for the community to be able to see their input come to life. The other areas are strategic outcome areas. So that one is kind of a carryover because our strategic outcome areas have been in place since 2021. And those are kind of high level goalposts. If we achieved everything in the world, these outcome areas are what we would have achieved. And then there's an emphasis on our trailblazing vision. I'm sure you guys have heard it a million times at this point, but we wanted to always find an opportunity to call attention to, we are a trailblazing city. And then the last part, which is a bulk of kind of where the work will come in now for staff, is what we call all-in initiatives, because those are the projects that staff is going to focus their time over the next 3 years. And so just an overview, again, of the strategic outcome areas, there are 8. They're in no particular order, but their different focus are being finance, strong and viable, so making sure we're fiscally responsible, making sure we have a very safe community, making sure our economy is sustainable and thriving, making sure we are creating spaces where we can celebrate the different diversity of our cultures, and then also making sure that people feel welcome once they're in those spaces as well. And then making sure that we have community partners, different state representative partners, and ensuring our government government is respected and influential. And then the other two being transportation and making sure that we're consistent about our strategies to be able to move people through spaces. And then the last one being infrastructure, and just emphasizing that we're not just building things for today, we're building infrastructure for tomorrow. And so making sure we continue to be sustainable in our strategies. And because every presentation needs to have our vision in it, just calling attention to that again. So the city's vision is we are trailblazers, relentless in our pursuit of good, so that our employees, residents, and businesses can enjoy a life better than they can even imagine. But the bulk of what I wanted to talk to you guys about was the all-in initiatives. So those are what we build our work plan around, essentially. And so you'll see so we have this graphic that just kind of showed them in one fold, but we'll also go through each one of them and their objectives. And so starting with stimulating economic growth. And so that one focusing on how are we creating opportunities for new innovative businesses to come, for them to create jobs, and just overall creating to the economic vitality of our city. The second one being enhancing suburban community. And so this one, we wanted to really make sure we emphasize, we understand that people moved to Sugar Land because it was a suburban, family-friendly community. And so making sure we emphasize opportunities to continue to enhance that. The third one being boosting our community reputation. When you Google Sugar Land's name, we want only the great things to come up. And so how do we create those avenues and opportunities to make sure that people associate our name with innovation, trailblazing, and being a place that they want to live and raise their families? The fourth one kind of came up throughout our community engagement efforts and process. We recognize that there is a large disconnect in our community, and this isn't just something that's unique to Sugar Land, but all across the world. There's a disconnect in kind of the trust in the government with our staff members and their community, and so we're trying to find more meaningful ways to build those bridges to create opportunities where our community can learn more, can engage more, and have meaningful conversations. And then the last one you guys know all about because you'll be spending quite some time talking about, but just calling attention again to redevelopment being a top priority of our city and making sure that we are also focusing on the housing strategies and just other forward-thinking amenities that support our redevelopment efforts. And so now to kind of get into each one of them. So enhancing suburban community. So like I said, each one of them has objectives, and the objectives are kind of high level, what we mean and how we're gonna start building projects around them as a city. And so when we talk about enhancing suburban community, that was the avenue where we're talking about celebrating those cultural celebrations, and how do we bring people together and celebrate our diversity? How do we have art installations around it? How do we have multicultural signage and just different opportunities to celebrate our uniqueness, but then also bring us together? Objective 2 being similar to creating those destination opportunities, and how do we make sure we have vibrant spaces and the venues that we already have, how do we call more attention to it so that we can have an environment for all? The third one being strong community connections. So a common thing that you guys will see is connections, relationships is gonna be a theme in all of them because we recognize none of this would be successful without our partners. And so just finding more ways to build those bridges, not only with ourselves in the community, but how do we create spaces where our community members wanna get out and help each other as well? And then the last one, the quality family infrastructure. And so that one comes to life. A lot of us, our investments in our sidewalks, our investments in our relationships with the school district, and just creating that overall safety and network that families can thrive in. The next one, when it comes to boosting community reputation, so we want to develop what we call a value proposition statement. And so just thinking through who are we as a city and why do people want to come here? And so doing different research and understanding us in comparison to other cities, and when people are deciding to pick a suburb to move their family to, what makes them choose Sugar Land over other areas. And so making sure we continue to emphasize that value statement. And then other opportunities for external visibility and recognition. Are there different awards? Are there different accolades that we should be putting our city forefront to? Are there things that our staff are doing? For example, one of our firefighters just won Trailblazing of the Year in fighter world. So how are we calling attention to those stories and sharing those testimonials of the people that run the city, also the people that lead the city and the community, and not just staff and the businesses as well? And then again, with the partnerships, because again, we can only be as successful as the success of those around us. The next one, encouraging community engagement. And so this one's large emphasis on is creating those opportunities. So creating us more spaces where we can have those quality discussions, but then also transparency. And another major thing we wanted to call attention to was objective 2, because we recognize we can create all the events in the world, but if we're not providing the basic level of services that our community expects of us, then we're missing the mark. And so making sure that we're as efficient and streamlined as possible, and we're holding ourselves accountable to the services that we provide. And then the third one being fostering and building that trust. And that one comes again in the form of making sure that people feel safe in these spaces that we create so that we can have conversations about the different things that are impacting us. And then the fourth one with the fostering sensitive redevelopment. So again, this one you guys have seen, I think, quite some time, but emphasizing again on the fostering of commercial and residential redevelopment environments. So making sure that we're ready for these new redevelopment opportunities and making sure that our environment, our codes and things like that support it as well. And then also creating a forward-looking housing strategy. And so just exploring the different dynamics that meet the needs of our current community and future. And preparing the key sites, so Imperial and Lake Point, and then again with the partnerships between the different developers in our community to just make sure that we're doing everything in the best interest of the future of our community. And then the last one, so we recognize that we have a great city. We recognize that a lot of people love being in Sugar Land, but there also comes a time where we understand that where we are in our life cycle as a city, and we need to continue to evolve. And so how do we build up that value proposition so our community also understands our need to evolve is what the fifth one is focused on. And then the last one being stimulating economic growth. So again, how are we creating that space where people associate Sugar Land with innovativeness? They see the plug and plays of the world, the startup businesses, and think that that's a place that I can go to where my business is going to thrive. And then also, again, maintaining our partnerships with businesses, and then a large emphasis on job creation, and then making sure that we have things that are attractive for our business, our visitors, and our residents. And then the last one being establishing our bold tourism strategy. And so who do we want to be known for as a city? What type of sports or events do we want to come to Sugar Land? Who do we want to be as a city? And so in a nutshell, those are the objectives. And we do have a URL. So I know you guys do have a copy of the strategic plan, but we have a URL that is sugarlandtx.gov/trailblazing-SLTX that will track the different projects that start coming on the horizon. Obviously, if there are things that are impactful to this group, especially when it comes to redevelopment, they'll come through this group. But then there's also avenues that staff will be working on and performance metrics that we want to make sure we're continuing to update the community along the way that we will post on this website URL. But at this point, I'll open it up for questions. Okay,
I
go
have
ahead.
one. On the trust in government.
Yes.
Is that a generalized statement or is that a Sugar Land specific?
That's a generalized. I think in general, I think every government is trying to figure out how do we build those bridges and have more meaningful conversations.
Okay. My comment on that is what I have seen in my limited experience now the last 3 years and being exposed. In general, I think people are very satisfied and proud of the government and the actions of Sugar Land. There are always a couple really loudmouth, I'll call them complainers. And quite frankly, they're not gonna be happy no matter what happens. I would just caution not to build something around a few complainers. If they are a significant minority, I think it's a waste of time. And so just from city resource standpoint, I wouldn't pay attention to it.
No, absolutely. And I did want to call attention. So when you guys go through the strategic plan, we did have people that, didn't necessarily agree with the process or did have different, and we did call attention to that because we wanted to acknowledge that is going to be dissent in the things that we do, but we're going to do what's in the best interest of the overall good. So that is a great point to make sure we always acknowledge.
In part of the plan, it talks about how you measure.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're talking about boosting community reputation, what are measurements for measuring our reputation against other cities?
I'm glad you asked. So there's actually this model. So our city engineer is actually in charge of this project. So city engineers have it built out to a T, but there's a different model that has elements that talk about when you come to like your different jobs and workforce and the number of opportunities, the diversity of businesses. It talks about when you talk and also like with the government themselves, the turnover in the employees, the culture, the diversity of the cultures that you have in your community. So there's a lot of elements that kind of make up our reputation reputation, and then also our comparison to cities of similar our sizes. Do we have things that are attractive as those other cities? So I'd say in a nutshell, it's a lot, but those are just kind of a few examples of things that we're looking at.
And will those be on the URL?
Yes, so those are going to be part of our metrics that we're building. So yes, we're going to share the model that we're using to kind of set a baseline for research, and then we'll share our progression towards it, yes.
Will they also link to the PR work that was presented and voted on at the last meeting?
Yes, so one of our great things that so especially when it comes to the community reputation is we're putting together like a sub-team of group of all of our efforts of communications throughout the city. So we have an internal communications, but then we also have the PR firm. And so we're working to make sure those groups are talking so that we're not putting out things that are in conflict of each other, and we're building out one common message as a city, so absolutely.
Just to throw in with the community reputation, just to keep an eye on our taxes. We passed that $350 million bond in November that will have a tax increase. And then just the cost of continuing to develop but just keep them from creeping up. And
Gotcha. I'm glad you brought up the geo bond too, because that is another avenue that we want to kind of continue to build our reputation by showing the community the different things that they've asked and said are important, and how we carry out those projects will be a way to kind of boost that as well, for sure.
Okay, so I have a quick question. On page 28, you've got the key objectives that you provided for redevelopment.
Yes.
And you've got the 5 objectives. So as we go forward as Sugarland 4B, how do we keep these in mind, and how does the work that we approve get lined up and communicated to follow these?
So Devin Rodriguez, the Director of Redevelopment, so she leads this whole effort. And so we have our quarterly check-ins with our groups. And so everything that she does is going to be to carry out these objectives. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, on the stimulating economic growth, when we talk about bold tourism strategy, are there specific aspects we're targeting? I mean, is it sports? Is it around?
So we're working on kind of gathering up a proposal that will help us kind of build what that looks like. So we don't have a definitive answer yet, but sports would be an avenue that we would explore to see if that is something that is a part of our story. Any other questions for me?
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you for having me. And we'll definitely, if there's any other updates that we can share with the group, we'll send it through you guys as team. But thank you. Oh, sorry.
All right, we'll go to the next item, the director's report. Devin?
Good afternoon. So we've got some updates that we'll share with you today. So under director's report, we can't take questions, but I'm sure that there's going to be one big item that you guys will have more questions about, and happy to talk to, have conversations, after the meeting, or bring back a workshop item in more detail. So with this director report, we like to provide all sorts of updates from our business development, tourism, and community development teams. So here's a little bit on what business development has been doing over the last month or so. So Jennifer Alexander attended the State of the Economy hosted by the Fort Bend Chamber, where they got a great overview from the business environment for 2025. Patrick with GHP always does an amazing job. Economic Development and Tourism also participated in a 3-day Dare to Lead workshop based on the research of Brene Brown, always trying to continue our professional development. And then Jennifer also participated in Fort Bend Leadership's Forum class of 2025 and graduated from this program in 2024. So we've had several folks from our departments that have gone through this or have graduated. It is a wonderful opportunity that we get to participate in, and lots of great relationships also come out of it. Nyan attended the Greater Houston Partnership 2025 annual meeting, which is the gathering of Houston's top businesses and community leaders. So we're definitely getting out there, working on relationships as well as professional development. Our marketing and tourism team, Alyssa, exhibited at the Southwest Showcase in partnership with the Houston Marriott in Austin, and the conference geared towards Texas Association meeting planners, providing education and exhibits. There were over 400 people in attendance, with a 50-50 split between the meeting planners and to suppliers. And then the booth attracted around 30 planners from organizations such as the Texas Association of Builders, Railroad Commission of Texas, TxDOT, and more. And the Marriott gave away a complimentary overnight stay. So lots of great partnerships in terms of trying to get these conferences into our hotels and partnering with our hotel partners as well. And then for community development, we've got several updates here. First of all, our Great Homes program. So in both years, we have had 264 projects that have been completed with over 4 million in value of over 4 million in home improvements. That has been about 679,000 of incentives from the city. So the total spend of the investment that people are making in these homes through this program is over $4 million. It's a great opportunity for us to reinvest in our existing housing stock, and we've had some great before and afters that you all have seen as well. In year 3, so we just launched this in January, we've received 21 applications. Since it started, we've committed so far in agreements 76,000 in reimbursements, and that it totals project costs, so the total investment 568,000. So we're off to a good start for 2025. Let's see here. We've got, I'm like trying to leave Imperial to the end. So we've had a few articles that have gone in recently related to the demographic changes that we've had. That was with the Chronicle, and also that our Sugarland commercial revitalization program that you all approved, the applications are open, and we've been getting some great coverage on that from the Fort Bend Herald as well as the Houston Public Media. Jessica Hubble and John Soriano were interviewed or a part of some of those articles, and so if you haven't seen them, we can definitely get you the links, but they were great representations of the program and what we're doing to get out there to get commercial property owners to reinvest and reimagine their commercial spaces. And then the last thing here, we just have Imperial update because we prepared this presentation. We had a lot that happened last night. So in case you were sleeping, we did announce on Friday that the city is pursuing acquisition of the Imperial Historic District site. And the city council made some major actions last night in order for us to continue with those acquisition and negotiation plans. As part of that, there was a notice of intent related to a certificate of obligation with a maximum of $50 million. Of that 50 million, we had to know, this is a notice of intent. So we had to notice a ceiling amount, and we will be coming back then in April for the actual certificate of obligation. But in that budget, it has about $35 million for land acquisition, $5 million for preserving the Char House, $6 million in one-time capital expenses in terms of things, improvements that we need to do around the site, capital-wise, besides just specific to the Char House, and then some contingency that we've budgeted in for this initial phase. On this topic, we've all been putting in a lot of work and been very excited. This is City Council's #1 priority to try to take a different path. This has been worked on by a lot of people for many years, and but we've gotten an incredible amount of media coverage on this, and I think we'll have the metrics for you more so in the next meeting. But just in one email that I saw this morning, the reach was over 19 million people and an incredible amount of earned media. So it was like over $12,000. So that's earned media that we got that we didn't pay for. So anyways, those are the updates, and we'll have more to come. And with that, I think that is the end of our meeting. So thank you all very much. Or end of my report.